Welcome to the Cincy PostCast. I'm your host, Kevin Wallace, and before we dive into today's episode, I want to tell you about our friends at the Empanadas Box. The Empanadas Box is a small, family-owned restaurant owned by natives of Buenos Aires, Argentina. They have Argentine-style empanadas with 22 globally inspired flavors available every single day. Looking for a suggestion? In October, they have the chicken pot pie empanada filled with braised chicken, onion, carrots, peas, and a creamy bechamel sauce. Just perfect for fall. Their empanadas are available for dine-in and carry-out, but the pro move here is actually to get a box of frozen empanadas to take home, and you can find the Empanadas Box in your favorite food delivery apps. Check them out online at theempanadasbox.com for more information, including catering options for lunches, parties, and more. And as a special offer to listeners to the podcast, they are offering 10% off at their Covington, Kentucky location if you mention the Post Cincy podcast at checkout. They're located at 212 West Pike Street in Covington, and I am very happy to report that the staff there are incredibly nice and the food is just fantastic. Thank you again to the Empanadas Box for sponsoring this episode of the Postcast.
Oh, and on today's episode of the Cincy Postcast, it's the calm before the storm. We now know who our first-round opponent will be in the MLS Cup Playoffs presented by Audi, covered by the Cincy Postcast. It's our old friends Red Bull New York. We take a look at the situation surrounding FC Cincinnati as we enter into the playoffs. Are you concerned about the recent form of this team? Is the Aaron Bopenza situation well and truly resolved? And will this match actually sell out? Tickets still available at fccincinnati.com. We finished out the episode by doing a deep dive preview, as only the Post can, of this playoff matchup, but let's be real. We've seen these guys 3 times already. You know what you're getting into when you play Red Bull New York. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be your last Postcast before the playoffs start. Let's hit it. Oh, and joining me to talk about all that and more is Grayson. No Kevin, as I'm sure you can surmise by the fact that I'm doing the intro. Kevin is obviously off celebrating a New York Red Bull win tonight. I think that's probably the kind of person he is, that he's a front runner, and I think he's already abandoned ship. Grayson, what do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think we're down to 2.
Yeah. Look for
which, some people would say, we just lost some dead weight.
Yeah, many people would say. I did see
those of us who don't even edit as a backup would definitely say that.
I did see a story today on somebody's Twitter feed about the lack of media coverage surrounding the New York Red Bulls, talking about how this big playoff match tonight, and that there was nothing in the Daily News, there was nothing in the New York Times, the failing New York Times. None of the TV stations had covered the team since our buddy to the south had come to visit for an away day. Maybe Kevin thought there was a market inefficiency and that he might be able to get to 24 listeners faster starting the New York Postcast.
Oh, that would be... Yeah. I mean, maybe we get more... Maybe the New York Postcast would get more than a dozen listeners, because all 13 of the fans and
the Red Bulls.
The what do they call it?
The Viking Army.
The Windy City.
The Windy City? No, I think it's the Gem City. Is that right?
It is the Gem
right.
City. Yeah.
Yeah.
They say if you can't make it there, try to make it here.
It's the city that never speaks, I think, is what they call it there. I don't know how a city would talk, but I don't know.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like how a city can be like a character in a film.
Right.
Like you set a movie in Chicago, like You've Got Mail.
Right.
Right.
Like Sleepless in Miami, great movie.
You've Got Mail is in Chicago,
I thought it was in Seattle, or am I thinking literally of Sleepless in Seattle?
Sleepless in Seattle is in they end up in New York, right?
I haven't seen that movie in like 20 years. This reminds me of that bit.
I'm not sure I've seen that
This
movie.
reminds me of that bit in The Naked Gun where they're just talking about boxers. Like, oh yeah, Kid Detroit. He was the Minneapolis Mauler. He fought out of Toledo. It's like everybody was from some other city that I don't really recall.
Yep.
Yeah, that was always
like Rocky, like Philadelphia is like a character in the movie, right?
Or how like Gotham City is the main character in all Batman movies. Like it's just all about the moody, brooding city that he operates in.
By the way, were Gotham and Metropolis always like across like a bay from each other?
No,
or is that just an invention of Zack Snyder?
I think it was an invention of Zack Snyder. And what really made it stupid was that if they were really just across the bay from one another, it feels like Superman could have taken care of Gotham too. That
I agree.
His failure to go across the bay. It's not like he has to worry about getting stuck in bridge traffic. And just like Superman, he might be late for something because the bridge gets backed up. Like you're down in Tampa and you're on the causeway or something like that, or the Skyway. He should be able to take care and keep the criminal element in check in both those places. Yet we're to believe that Superman was just mostly unconcerned with stopping the Joker and all of the other non-superpower having supervillains that were in Gotham.
It is lucky. It is lucky that all the superpowered supervillains stayed on one side of that river or bay or whatever it was.
They stay on their half.
Because like you get one Bizarro over in Gotham, and it's over.
Batman can't handle that. That's
no.
Well, I lie. Batman, if you give him enough prep time, Batman's going to handle anything. No, I always thought the whole deal with like Gotham and Metropolis was that Gotham was supposed to be New York, Metropolis was supposed to be Chicago. That was like sort of the.
That's always what I.
And they were far. Right? They were far enough away from one another that maybe they could plausibly not interact a lot.
Right, because Chicago, it would make sense for Superman to go to Metropolis because growing up in Kansas, Chicago is like where you go if you're from the Midwest. If you don't go to Denver.
Right. Superman gets his journalism degree at Miami, and like all Miami grads, he goes up to Chicago after he graduates. What's up, Randy?
And then Gotham. Gotham. I mean, New York is like Gotham FC is in New York.
Quite literally, the nickname for New York, Gotham City. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but you're also talking about Zack Snyder, a man that had the two main characters of the film bond over the shared realization that their mothers were both named Martha. We're not exactly talking a lot of deep writing here.
I actually think that that's good.
What? No.
I think it was good. It wasn't that their mothers had the same name. It was that, which by the way, is interesting that nobody pointed that out in like 100 years.
I was embarrassed by the fact that I just realized in that moment that, oh yeah, Martha Wayne and Ma Kent were both the same person.
So I think the reaction to it was mostly people having not made the connection their entire life, just being embarrassed to admit they never made the connection. Right. But the point wasn't that their moms had the same name. The point was that was the first time in the movie that Batman saw Superman as a man.
As a person. Just like...
As a man concerned about his mother.
Just somebody else's kid.
Like the whole movie, he's like, this guy is a god. He's he's not one of us. But in that moment, he saw Superman was concerned not about himself. He was concerned at the moment where he thought he was going to die, primarily for his mother, right? And he saw the humanity in Superman and spared his life. And that's always what's been special about Superman, which I think Zack Snyder accidentally hit on, because I don't think Zack Snyder actually views Superman as a person. No. But because he's got this whole like, there's these gods and then there's the rest of us and only the gods matter. And he views himself as like his artist as like one of the gods. But what was special about Superman as a character, which people I think lately are misunderstanding and getting away from, is like he is an alien, right? He is like impossibly more powerful than us, but he but he's also primarily like a person from Kansas who grew up on a
Right.
farm.
He's a hillbilly.
Is that he is as different from us by birth as you could possibly get, but because of like how he grew up and the values that he holds, he like chooses humanity, right? And he is a person.
Right. He wants to be us.
He's not a guy.
He wants to be us. He
Which
doesn't want to be a messianic figure, which is where Snyder dropped the ball on the Superman character, was that he was more interested in Superman as this personification of what we could aspire to be more like him, and that he was this symbol. And he gets it backwards. Batman is the person who wants to be the symbol. He wants to be more than a man. He wants to be something that is
Which is paradoxical because Batman doesn't have the powers.
Right. But Superman, he desires nothing more than to blend into our society. He does not want this responsibility. It is forced upon him, and he reluctantly takes on this role because he has the ability to make a difference. But if he had a choice, he would just want to be Clark from Smallville. That's all he wants. And work on his... Which is the deep irony is that he can't get away from who he is.
If you know anything about the creation of Superman, right? He's created by two Jewish guys from Shaker Heights, Cleveland.
Right. It's an immigrant story.
Growing up in a Jewish neighborhood, growing up feeling other, right? And wanting nothing more than to just be recognizable as Middle American.
American.
Right.
Like, well, I have chosen my life.
Superman is an immigrant story, and the beautiful thing about Superman as a character is that no matter where you're from, you can just be American.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Batman sees in that moment.
Yeah, the problem, though, is that that's undercut by the fact that in that moment, all anyone thinks about is, oh, this is the Martha moment. Like, it undercuts the moment because, A, it makes the audience simultaneously feel dumb that they never saw this connection before. It's a head smack moment for everybody that's watching this. And B, it comes after Zack Snyder has spent the entirety of Man of Steel and most of Batman versus Superman trying so hard to make Superman not a human being and to make him seem more alien than he really is. And so it just undercuts the message in that moment that no, he's an alien, and you've taken great pains to show that he's an alien. And the entire basis of this story is that the character of Superman shows blatant and total disregard for humanity in his fight against Zod in Man of Steel, as he crashes into buildings and brings down and kills. The body count in Man of Steel is astronomical. Like, Batman is entirely right.
For sure.
But that's like you got away from Superman's character. That, like, the traditional Superman would never have had that fight in a city. He would have sacrificed himself to go somewhere else where the body count wouldn't have been as high.
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is I think this is a great example because I agree with everything you just said about all the things that undercut that moment, because a lot of times, like, talented artists, like, don't really, like, know what works and what doesn't.
Right.
And they just kind of do things, and then, maybe they hit on something. And I think Zack Snyder totally misunderstands the character. Absolutely. And he's broadcast his own ideology onto these characters. But he's also, like, when he's not wrapped up in, like, his overarching narrative and is just, like, finding small moments, I think he's a talented enough artist that, like, he stumbles across stuff like the Martha moment, which is, like, frankly the best moment in an otherwise, like, pretty bad movie.
I don't.
And, like, I think about this about, like, Clint Eastwood. Way more talented filmmaker than Zack Snyder. But Clint Eastwood also, I don't think necessarily understands, or I don't think his artistic vision is necessarily 100% one-to-one compatible with like his like articulated political views. Because I think like Richard Jewell was a really, really excellent film.
Didn't see it.
And I really do think that he set out to be like, oh, I'm creating like this Trump analog of like this regular guy beset by the FBI and the evil media. But what he ends up making, because he's too good of a filmmaker, is just like a extremely empathetic character study of your average Joe caught up in forces beyond their control.
Yeah, the difference between like good filmmakers or great filmmakers and just okay filmmakers is even when they're not working with great material or they don't understand what it is that they're trying to accomplish, you end up with moments of brilliance in films and moments of just the shot making is so well done and the scene is so well paced that it becomes riveting because it takes you out of the moment where you're just otherwise mad or angry at how the script is going. Trying to think of my favorite example of this. She made a couple of films. Sofia Coppola was really, really good at this, where it was like a lot of really boring and mundane material, but she really had an incredible eye for how to shoot a scene. And Clint Eastwood's the same way, where he got a little up his own ass with some stuff, but just, well, I mean, the other thing Clint Eastwood's really good at is that he understands too that Hollywood cinema doesn't need to be frantic, and he can pace and have a moment and let things breathe, which never happens anymore. I give Snyder credit for this, and that's that he at least put a different spin on the comic book movie than the almost rote formulaic Marvel nonsense that's been coming out for the past 15 to 20 years. It was at least different. I give him credit for that. Matt Reeves, the Batman movie, was the same way, where it's like, oh, thank God, this just feels different in tone at the very least than the quip-offs that comic book movies have evolved into. My only real problem with Zack Snyder is that I paid money to see Sucker Punch in the theaters, and I will never forgive him for that hour and 45 minutes of my life being wasted.
I am not like a Snyder apologist by any means.
Nor should you be.
I think he completely misunderstood Watchmen. Although I think the movie is like fine of itself. I think it's like kind of extremely flawed, let's say, adaptation of the source material. Right. But I can't deny that he like makes films. Like he's got like a vision, and he's got like an ideology.
There's a plan. And
he's executing something, you know, which most of the Marvel movies are not. And I enjoy most of the Marvel movies just like a watching experience, you know, probably more than most Zack Snyder movies, but there's like nothing. There's stuff to talk about when you watch a Zack Snyder movie.
Actually,
you know, it's like what I was talking about on like reading Ayn Rand. Like there's like it's a rich text. Like it might be like bad, but
there's a lot going on.
But like there's stuff happening, and there's stuff that you could actually like talk about.
The Snyder, I actually prefer, and this is heresy, I prefer Watchmen the movie to Watchmen the graphic novel. Just because, I think Watchmen the graphic novel has one of the most unsatisfying endings of just about anything I've ever read. And I think that the movie actually fixes a little bit of that. The interesting thing about that is it's Watchmen, and then my other movie that falls in this category of where the filmmaker did not understand the source material at all that he was trying to make, but accidentally stumbled into brilliance. Watchmen is my go-to for that, and the other one's a movie we've talked about before in this podcast, and that's Starship Troopers, where
I think the filmmaker did understand the source material.
No, he's on record. Verhoeven's on record as saying, "I didn't read the book; it was dour, and I couldn't finish it."
So, but he didn't write the script. the guy who wrote RoboCop wrote the script.
It was Verhoeven, wasn't it?
Verhoeven directed it.
He directed RoboCop.
There was
too,
a different
though, right?
writer.
Was he the same? Worked
he
with the
did.
same writer then? I didn't know. I thought Verhoeven did both.
Yeah, same writer.
Um,
But I think Starship Troopers is a great.
It is an criminally underrated film. It is so good at what it sets out to do. The other thing that's great about Starship Troopers too is that it's so timeless in how it talks about the march to war and the slow creep of fascism, that it works as a really good analog to how things worked in the build up to the Iraq War post 9/11 as well.
Yeah.
Like it's almost scary how well it lines up.
The problem is like the people that the people that most need to like watch it and take lessons from it probably too stupid to understand what lessons they should be taking.
You mean
from
the people that don't realize Doogie Howser is dressed like a member of the SS the entire time, and he is not the good guy?
I mean, I this is not my original thought, but I think it's exactly correct. Is Starship Troopers is the propaganda film that this society would make and release about their war on the bugs.
Absolutely true. No doubt.
Yeah.
Like you were watching,
and once you understand that, it's no notes,
none.
Like the part Paul Verhoeven has talked about, like casting bad actors on purpose.
Yeah, that it's supposed to be schlocky. It is supposed to be. It is supposed to be something.
They're supposed to be like perfect looking,
like representations,
Nazi,
representations,
fascist
of the best,
looking people,
the best of our race. That this is what humanity should aspire to be: vapid looking people, following orders, staring down the camera, delivering lines like they sucked out his brains without a hint of irony whatsoever. Like this was the film they forced you to watch in school as to why we are still at war with the bugs and devoting like 70% of our GDP to an ongoing war effort that really doesn't impact anyone's life or make anyone's life better on Earth.
Yeah.
So good.
And it's too smart for its own good.
Yeah, and the thing too is that the marketing was terrible for this movie too. Like I remember when this movie came out, it was billed as a straight action movie. And everyone went to see it and they were like, what in God's name is this? It's like, no, it is brilliant. You just aren't ready for the smoke that this movie's dealing to you in terms of its commentary on war, propaganda, fascism, and not really recognizing who the good and the bad guys are. The bugs are the good guys in that movie, unequivocally.
Absolutely. The bugs are 100% the good guys. There's even like a line that's dropped at one point that it's just briefly mentioned one time, but humanity is the aggressor in that film.
There's a debate show that they show a brief clip of where someone who is specifically portrayed as a weak, academic-looking individual talking about how we are encroaching on their territory and that it's us moving in that has made them aggressive. And it was almost, it reminded me of the old Hannity and Combs show, where they always set up Hannity to have like the punching bag to knock down, or like Stephen A. on First Take, where they set him up with the weak takes from Max Kellerman so that he can look smart. And then they just pulverize this guy talking about how he's anti-human and we have no time for this kind of talk. We're at war. And it's like he's making a really good point, and he's saying the quiet part out loud.
Yep. And I've heard people say like, well, I don't really think it's a satire. I think it's just a bad movie, and then they tried to explain that away as being satire or whatever. And like, watch any other Paul Verhoeven movie. Like, Paul Verhoeven is a satirical director. RoboCop,
it's a critique of capitalism.
RoboCop is a hilarious movie. RoboCop.
It's a takedown of 1980s corporatism, and the push, the Reaganomics push towards privatization, and just the unfettered, like the damn corporation is called Omnicorp. Like it's a critique of just the mergers and acquisitions and the upward sort of consolidation of resources in the hands of very few corporations. It's a phenomenal satire of our economic system in the 80s.
Yeah.
I don't understand how people don't see this. I guess I don't know.
I don't know. So speaking of RoboCop,
right.
and buying things for $1.
I'll buy that for $1.
I thought that we would start this episode with some buy sell. How's that sound?
Other great movie that you didn't realize is a critique, or is it not a critique? It is a wholehearted endorsement of 1980s capitalism. Is Ghostbusters. People don't recognize this movie for the message it has often enough. The when you break down the plot of Ghostbusters, it is a group of entrepreneurs who start their own small business have to fight back against crippling regulation being offered by the villain, who is the Environmental Protection Agency in this movie.
So Ghostbusters, incredible film. I had an idea for a Ghostbusters reboot years ago before they did like the various attempts at a Ghostbusters reboot, and I think I can sum it up really quickly. So basically, like after the events of like Ghostbusters, they get real famous. They franchise,
right?
Okay, people buy franchise rights and open up little like Ghostbusters mom and pop shops around New York and around the country. And Woody Harrelson, Rosie Perez, and two other kind of like middle-aged people work in like a struggling Ghostbusters franchise, and they're losing all of this business. They're losing all of this business because a like Uber for ghostbusting has come up, like an app,
a technology disruptor in the ghost busting space. I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. So there's all these like little hipsters around with like rented proton packs and stuff, like undercutting them, beating them to like ghost scenes and things, and their business is struggling. And I think it's like Woody Harrelson. I had like a whole cast, but like Woody Harrelson, Rosie Perez, maybe like Marissa Tomei and like Liev Schreiber or something, like something like that, right? Like those kinds of people, and the app gets haunted.
So the actual phones your phone is haunted by this app.
Yeah. So the only people who can save you is this like essentially last like Blockbuster or last like taxi cab company.
Can I offer a addition to this plot that I think would be tremendously funny? All right, so you would have had to have made this a while ago before you stopped acting, but you recall the character Rick Moranis, Louis Tully, was a lawyer in that series. It would have been very...
Was he a lawyer or was he an accountant?
He was a lawyer because remember he defends them in Ghostbusters 2 in court?
Oh, that's right. You're right.
So he is in this town and he is litigating and lobbying on behalf of the Ghostbusters to try and convince city council to pass an ordinance that will stop these startups from these app companies from doing this because they're not properly insured. They're not real Ghostbusters. It's really putting too much power in people's hands. And so he is also, as part of the plot, attempting to take depositions and doing things to undercut this app from its business model and involved in a lawsuit on the same time. Because I always like whenever we can involve an unnecessary courtroom scene in any movie.
Yeah, so I think where the recent one went wrong is like treating like the Ghostbusters like they're being like personally special and now becoming like a story about family or whatever. Right. The movie was about like city economy, like you just said, right? So like just update it for like economic issues that are more relevant for today.
What city would you set this in? Because it can't, like we said, the city has to be. New York was very much a character.
I mean, should it be San Francisco?
I don't know. It's got to be something. What's an objectively funny city for this to take place in? Someplace with like Houston, where traffic is awful, so it makes it harder for the Ghostbuster to get from point A to point B. Someplace where that's like.
Maybe, yeah.
Or like.
Oh no, I'm open for suggestions, folks. Put them in the comments.
See if you can write Dr. Kopp, attorney at law, into this plot as well.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so speaking of the economy, how about we do a little round of buy and sell?
All right, I'm into it.
Okay, so this is a soccer podcast, as people
know from the first 20 minutes.
From the first
20 minutes,
half hour of this show. This is a podcast focused exclusively on FC Cincinnati and stories relevant to the local Major League Soccer team.
Yep.
So buy, sell, the Michigan University sign stealing. No big deal.
No big deal. I have no big. I'm selling this as a scandal. Look, the only way that this is a scandal is if you can tell me that they are tapping into some sort of like headset feed or something like that. But sign stealing is a part of every sport. The only part when I get a problem with it is if you're doing something that like the regular average person would have no ability to do. But my understanding is they just had a dude buying tickets to these games, sitting and watching the sidelines. And if your signs are so easily stolen by a guy watching the games, get better signs. I think somebody was saying that like there are already teams that are combating this, that they will have multiple play calls on the sidelines, and it's one guy's wearing a red hat, one guy's wearing a blue hat, and one guy's wearing a green hat, and the signal is relayed into the quarterback by a player making a substitute red, and he looks at the red guy versus the green guy, so you never truly know who's giving the signs on any one play. Now, this is a non-controversy. I'm sorry that you're mad that Michigan is trying to outsmart the system, but I don't know. I don't care.
I think that the people trying to pretend like they're not doing anything is really funny. Right. And like any stupid little scandal I enjoy for sure. But speaking as an Ohio State fan, I don't care about Michigan stealing signs, and frankly, it's just another reason to fire Ryan Day
for
that he's not already doing this.
Yeah.
Like he just doesn't want it. Like he does not want it enough.
The other thing, too, about all these college coaches is they'd sell their mother and their children down the river if it meant one extra 5-star recruit would sign on. It's the dirtiest sport known to mankind. I'm sorry, you don't get to be sanctimonious about sign stealing. This is so stupid.
And it's just, yeah.
So I'm selling the hell out of that.
Yeah, so buying that it's not
buying that's not a big deal, sure.
So I was listening to a radio station today, and a Pandora station today, and the Soccer Mommy cover of "I'm on Fire" came on, and I really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. And I was listening to the lyrics, and I was like, "This song is kind of creepy," when sung by Bruce Springsteen. So what I'm offering for buy sell is, only lesbians should sing the Springsteen song "I'm on Fire."
I don't think anyone should sing Bruce Springsteen songs. I don't get Bruce Springsteen. Okay, I have tried to get into Bruce Springsteen. On paper, it feels like someone that I should enjoy. You know, me.
Oh, this is so
me
good.
Having been to way too many concerts in my life from a band that tours around the country and is fronted by a man named Dave. You can figure out who I'm talking about. Bruce has never done it for me, ever. And I get that's why I'm not a good sport. I didn't go into the sports writing business, because when you become a sports writer, you're apparently required to love all things Bruce Springsteen. I have to forswear my Jersey roots, I guess, father from New Jersey. I don't get Bruce. I never have. He's fine. But I don't get it. I don't get the obsession with Bruce Springsteen.
I love that take. Because I also don't get it.
Right,
I also don't get it with Bruce Springsteen. So I like a lot of his, I have Born to Run on vinyl in the other room. It's a good album. But the people that really love Bruce Springsteen, they're not like your working man.
No.
They're fancy lads who like to ape working man aesthetics. Right. Chris Christie is like the embodiment of like your big Bruce Springsteen fan.
Right.
It's a rich guy, a rich, comfortable guy who likes to talk with an accent or curse sometimes or like act tough.
He's the like, blue collar comedy tour of music, where it's like there's something that has always come off as slightly inauthentic about Bruce Springsteen. It's like I feel the same way about Jimmy Buffett for that regard. God bless him. Rest in
Jimmy Buffett's fun. His songs are fun.
Sure, but like there's a problem that I
But
have with it, where
yes.
you are selling me Carpe Diem at the same time you're trying to get me to take your shitty Margaritaville cruise and stay at your Margaritaville resort at Newport on the Levee and eat at your shitty overpriced TGI Fridays Margaritaville restaurant, all while telling me like, hey, lay back, life's a beach, whatever. It's like, no, this is a soulless corporate empire that you have built, and you can do that, but then don't sell me the bullshit that this is all about living free and be living carefree and all that. It's the same thing with Bruce Springsteen. It's like, all right, you're a working class hero, then you're charging me $125 for fucking tickets to your show, and everyone there is upper class buying Ticketmaster Platinum. It's just, I don't get it. It's not, you know who's authentic in this space? And I understand he's problematic, but god damn it, he is exactly who he says he is Kid Rock.
Oh no, he's not. Oh no.
Yes.
You lost me here.
Yeah.
Kid Rock is not authentic.
Here's why he's authentic in the
Kid Rock is like the son of a multimillionaire,
right, but
car dealership owning guy
here's
who tried to make it as a rapper.
Who
failed?
What rich kid in the late 90s didn't try to make it as a rock rapper?
No. I'm off this train.
He is exactly, in terms of like what he portrays himself as, is the same guy. He's selling concert tickets for $25 and the t-shirts at his show are $15. Is that because that's all his fans can afford? Maybe. But at the very least, the person he is portraying is consistent with how he, puts his shows on and how he does things, other than shooting up Bud Light and then drinking it later. That's a little weird. But
you know who the great East Coast American singer-songwriter is?
I mean, there's so many to name. Frank Sinatra comes immediately to mind.
I said singer-songwriter. It's Billy Joel.
I love Billy Joel.
Billy Joel is, like, my most cancelable take is Billy Joel is a much greater artist than Bruce Springsteen. And I love his music. I know people think it's light. It's not. Just because it's catchy doesn't mean it's not light. And you know what it is Bruce Springsteen like thinks he's sweet and he thinks he's like doing something, right? He's got like a message and he's like, I'm going to change the world because I'm so important. Billy Joel thinks he is personally a piece of shit. He hates himself. Yeah. And his songs like reveal that he hates himself. And they're catchy because he is desperate for you to like him. Billy Joel is an artist.
I'm going to say this. Bruce Springsteen hasn't written a song as good as Scenes from an Italian Restaurant.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't made an album as good as The Stranger.
I also appreciate with Billy Joel that he has the self-awareness to know that We Didn't Start the Fire is fucking terrible. Like, I really, really appreciate that. And that, like, he understands that, but somehow Fall Out Boy didn't. So, what am I selling? I'm selling that anyone should ever sing Bruce Springsteen songs. 'Cause here's the other thing about it. Bruce Springsteen can barely sing Bruce Springsteen songs.
I went to a John Kerry rally in 2004, and Bruce Springsteen was there, and it sucked, to be honest. He just gave a speech, and he was like, it was like a speech, and he was just like fitting his like lyrics into the speech. Like, and he's like, just like me, John Kerry was born to run. And I'm like, and people were eating it up.
So
and I'm
bad.
looking around and I'm like, don't you guys know this sucks? I don't know. Anyway,
that's it.
So yeah, I guess we're selling Bruce Springsteen.
That same year when I skipped seeing John Kerry in Toledo to go watch the aforementioned Dave Matthews play with Jurassic 5 and Ben Harper, and then Neil Young came and played the entire last set with Dave Matthews. It was an incredible concert.
Okay, so buy or sell. Sharon Stone is hotter in Casino than Basic Instinct.
I'll buy that. Basic Instinct's a terrible movie. Like, if it wasn't for that scene,
it's also Paul Verhoeven.
Right, it's just not one of his best. Like, that movie is reducible down to one risque scene. That's all anyone remembers from the movie. There was no cultural touchstone beyond that. And I don't know. I don't like Basic Instinct. Casino is a great movie, though. Casino is an all-time classic. I don't trust people that haven't seen Casino in terms of understand.
I rewatched it a couple weeks ago, so it's top of mind.
So good.
Um,
I think it's better than
so
Goodfellas.
good.
That's a controversial take I'll make.
I wouldn't go that far, but it's certainly worthy of Goodfellas. Buy or sell. Bradley Carnell is Coach of the Year.
Oh my God, sell. I'm so mad about this take, and I'm so glad that you have seized on this point. And I don't want to steal your thunder on this, so I'll let you go off on it.
No, go seize.
I have been sold a lie this year. I have been sold a pernicious lie that somehow what St. Louis FC is doing right now, or SC is doing, has never been done before, that they are some historically great expansion franchise, and oh my God, isn't it so impressive what they've done? They're not even the best expansion team in history, let alone the best Western Conference team, any of that. LAFC was better. And here's the other pernicious lie I have been sold, that, oh, it's so much better what Bradley Carnell has done because he's done this all in just 1 year. He has had years for this squad to be prepared to go into MLS. He was the coach there, if I'm not mistaken, last year. He was actually hired before Pat Noonan to be the coach of St. Louis City SC. He's been on the job longer than Pat Noonan. I don't get it. I don't get it. I still keep going back to this thing that Doyle said when he was on the podcast.
He has not quite been as long as Pat Noonan, but he has been basically as long as Pat Noonan. He was hired to coach St. Louis City SC on January 5th, 2022.
So 2 months. He has 2 months on Pat Noonan. When was Pat hired? Like October, I want to say?
No, after the season. So like November.
It was whatever.
Albright was hired in October.
Okay. So whatever it is, he has been on the job basically the same amount of time as Pat Noonan. He didn't inherit all the problems that Pat Noonan did. There was never an ask of Bradley Carnell to figure out a way to fit round pegs into square holes. He never had to deal with, well, you got Alvaro Boreal. What are we going to do with him? Oh, we're going to teach him to play a brand new position and make him an MLS best 11 player on a brand new position. We're going to get the most out of Brandon Vasquez, someone who had never shown anything or been offered the opportunity to show anything professionally. We're going to dance around the fact that we have contracts like Yuya Kubo and Kenneth Vermeer. We're going to somehow manage to get Brenner's sale value up high enough that we're not going to take a bath on him. I'm sorry. At every stage of Pat Noonan's career at FC Cincinnati, he has been a better coach than Bradley Carnell. He's done more with less. Bradley Carnell didn't inherit the problems. He had over a year before his actual debut in MLS to get his stuff right. No, it's nonsense. Sell.
Yep. I mean, Noonan had to figure things out while also winning games. Yes. It's insane to me.
I am so angry.
Once again, people are Matt Doyle was on this podcast last week saying that St. Louis put together the best expansion season of all time. They didn't.
False.
They didn't. And I made this tweet, and some people who, frankly, I wasn't even talking to, because my Twitter is for FC Cincinnati fans.
You should put that in your bio.
Fans of other teams, do not come in and talk to me, okay? But I would get in and say, well, they had the most wins of an expansion team. Well, first of all, they didn't. Chicago had 20 wins their expansion season. Okay? But number two, we go by points, honey.
Dear.
We don't go by wins. You know what having more wins and less points means? You lost more games.
You didn't finish in first. You finished lower in the standings. We do the standings based on points in this league. In every league.
Standings are by points. Oh my God. It's so stupid.
And then the other thing too is I keep going back to this, and it makes me more mad every time I think about it. And look, I appreciate Matt Doyle doing the podcast. I appreciate him standing up for his takes. But to say with a straight face, when asked what could Pat Noonan have done to win Coach of the Year this year, said set a points record. Oh, so the only thing Pat Noonan had to do to win this award was be the coach of the best team in MLS history. Do you know what a travesty it would have been if he would have set a points record and not won the goddamn award?
Well, so what about just getting more points than the guy who won Coach of the Year last year? And that guy having come into the season with the expectation of winning the league.
How about this?
With a settled team that had been good for several years, not walking into the situation that Pat Noonan walked into. What is the argument for? And by the way, the last decade, the Coach of the Year winner has finished within 2 points of the Supporter Shield, and like 8 out of 10 times won the Supporter Shield or was tied on points like Curtin last year for the Supporter Shield. And Carnell will have the worst Coach of the Year season in, I don't know, living memory?
What do you think he really, what could Pat Noonan have done to win this award?
Nothing.
I mean,
it's nothing.
Do more.
He came in last year with worse expectations than Carnell, no time to prep, a disaster of a roster, and a team that MLS pundits had been saying on all of their little podcasts that nobody wanted to work for Jeff Berding, and this team is years away from even being competitive. They just need to bunker down and, hopefully not finish last for a couple of years. And he took that team to the Eastern Conference semifinals and gave the team that won the Eastern Conference the best game that they had all playoffs. And he got basically no buzz for Coach of the Year. And that's fine. That's fine if we're using the established criteria for Coach of the Year. But now this year, we're changing the criteria, and we're giving it to Carnell, basically just to not give it to Pat Noonan.
It's funny, too. I remember the takes when Pat Noonan was hired from all these same pundits was that Cincinnati fans need to brace for a multi-year rebuild, and they need to give Chris Albright and Pat Noonan time. They need to give them time because they're going to need to get their guys in. And it turns out that was a lie. You don't need to get your guys in. You just need to be a good coach and do more with what you've got on staff. I just wonder if Pat Noonan would have been, maybe do a few more podcasts, do the interview circuit a little bit more. Maybe he's being punished for that. Maybe he's being punished for his brevity in comments in his post-game interviews. I don't know. I thought, wasn't the whole point of hiring Noonan and Albright that we would start to get some shine from the national media because we're hiring their buddies, guys they played with, and guys they knew?
I'll tell you what I think it is. I think the media is shell-shocked by how hard they leaned into the team being a disaster and how committed they were to that take. And they just want to erase it. They don't want to acknowledge it.
I have a more insidious take than that. I think that it would cause physical pain for a lot of these people to say anything that could possibly be interpreted as praise for a decision Jeff Berding made. I think he's that reviled within league circles.
Yeah, that's probably true. And I think that, owning so they have 3 choices, right? They can either acknowledge that, well, I guess 2 choices. Well, 3 choices. One is say Noonan did a miracle.
Right.
Okay. 2 is admit they were wrong and the team wasn't in as bad of a position as they all said. They were just kind of feeling themselves and reveling and shitting on a team in a forgotten part of the country that was down and out. Right. Or 3, they can just basically pretend none of that ever happened.
Yeah. Option 4.
And just say, yeah, well, Noonan, like anybody could win in Cincinnati. It's not impressive.
Right.
that Noonan did what he did.
Option 4 in all this.
Have you seen that roster?
Option 4. And I'm okay if this ends up being the take out of this. Like, I am okay. Believe it or not. I am okay with Pat Noonan not winning Coach of the Year under this circumstance. That from now on, if you're hired as a coach somewhere and you don't turn the ship around within 2 years, if after year 1 things aren't looking better, be on the hot seat. Why? Because apparently it's the expectation of the norm, and it's nothing special to take a team that has finished in dead last place for 3 straight years and have them in the playoffs in year 1 and have them winning Supporters' Shield by year 2. And if that is truly not special enough to award Coach of the Year for, you should be fired for not doing it.
Yeah, I agree. If you don't do the greatest 2-year points jump in MLS history,
Fired. Yeah,
fired.
That's expected. That's
apparently a pedestrian coaching
normal
job.
coaching job. You don't even win. That didn't even win you Coach of the Year. And if that's what we're talking about here is a normal, non-award winning coaching performance, then there's a shitload of people in this league that need to be desperately on the hot seat for how things are going. Yeah, like Wayne Rooney shouldn't have been allowed to step away. Wayne Rooney should have been fired. I don't care what his name is. Why? Because the expectation should be that, hell, if Pat Noonan can come to Cincinnati and win, the great Wayne Rooney should have that team, qualifying for the Club World Cup inside of 6 minutes. If lowly Pat Noonan, never been a coach before, assistant under Jim Curtin, if he can come in and do this and not win Coach of the Year, then surely the expectations need to be greater across the board for every single person. Shit, these coaches should be lobbying for Pat to win. They should be talking about what an incredible job it is, because they're all looking like fools if they can't turn their clubs around as fast as Pat Noonan did. Making them all look bad. Maybe that's why he didn't win. Maybe there's a whisper campaign against Pat that he's violating the unwritten rule, that he's the guy at the office or the guy on I don't know, do you watch Lower Decks, or am I the only person that does that?
I don't watch that.
Well, you're missing out. No, they had this thing called I forget what the term was, but it's when the main character Boimler starts doing jobs too fast. He makes everyone mad, because you got to understand, you need to keep things slow, otherwise the expectation will be that you get more done during your day. And if you do that, then you're ruining it for everybody else. So maybe that's the problem here, is that Noonan made everyone else look so bad with this turnaround job that he's now being blackballed by his fellow coaches and members of the media who want to hold people to low expectations. That's my take.
All right. It's a good take. Next one. Buy or sell that instead of going by seed each round, the higher seed should just get to pick their own playoff opponent in order.
I love this. I've had this take for a while, because then you get the motivation of, oh, they picked us. They don't even respect us enough to want to play us. But it offers you the opportunity as the higher seed to pick the matchup that works best for you, as opposed to the team that didn't finish with whatever record it is. No, I absolutely love this. I think that this should be done in all sports. I'm surprised the NFL specifically hasn't done this, because this would be absolute must-see TV. The selection show would be absolute must-see TV, where you would have like one coach and the team captain sitting at a table, and they would make Pat Noonan and Lucho go up to the microphone and select who they are playing, and then the camera would cut to the team they're playing, and they'd get the death stare going back and forth, and the announcers would be like, oh, we can't believe it. We thought for certain they would select New York, but that's a matchup nightmare for them, so they went with New England, the team that's losing its head coach and is in a free fall right now. I would love that. I am so in on this. I'll buy that for every dollar in my wallet.
All right. Well, I also buy it. So rather than belabor the point, if this was FC Cincinnati's option right now, between New England, Atlanta, Nashville, and spoiler alert, New York Red Bulls, who beat Charlotte tonight.
Clobbered.
Who would you pick?
New England, far and away. It's
Same.
all right. So let's make this interesting. We'll take New England off the table. The second choice I would make is I would choose Nashville.
Yeah.
Nashville
hasn't Nashville like not scored in the last like 4 games
they don't
or something
score,
like that?
Like if you look at their
or 4 goals in the last 5 games.
If you look at like their average goals per game between the first half of the season and post Leagues Cup, they're scoring like I think 0.7 goals per game, 0.6 goals per game post Leagues Cup. They haven't looked good. Haney Mukhtar has fallen off a cliff in terms of his production. The team looks bad. They're in an awful run of form, and they play on natural grass, so you don't even have the turf issue going back and forth in there. Easy away day for the fans. Nashville would be, if we're taking New England off the table, Nashville would be the team I'd most want to play right now. Results in history
Nashville
aside.
has failed to score. Nashville has failed to score in 4 of the last 5 games of the season.
Oh, absolutely. Like, that's why this system is so nonsense, is that you're getting a Red Bulls team that chronically underachieved the entire year for FC Cincinnati, that's coming in red hot, that just beat this FCC team a couple of weeks ago. They wouldn't even be in my top 5 teams I'd want to play in this playoff bracket right now.
Yeah, so Red Bulls... Red Bulls won 4 of their last 5 games.
Yeah, that's great. That's who you want to play going into the playoffs.
Yeah, so this bleeds into the next one. Buy or sell, FC Cincinnati's late season form is concerning for their postseason prospects.
Buy? Maybe? I don't know. It's so hard. It's suffering from success would be the headline on FC Cincinnati. It's been so long since they played a game that mattered that it's really hard to have any idea whatsoever what the effort level was, what the give a shit a meter was running at for the last couple of weeks. I have a hard time, as much as I want to be the reactionary fellow that I always am, I have a hard time really getting fired up about results that don't matter and games that don't matter.
So let me tweak the question a little bit then. Does the fact that they haven't played a meaningful game in a month or more factor in at all?
Yeah, I think it does actually. And it's worrying because you don't know, this team's never been in this position before. And I was talking with somebody at work today, and the idea came is, I don't know that I love being the number 1 seed. I love winning the Supporters Shield, but I don't know that I like being the targets on their back team. I think I would almost feel more comfortable being the number 2 seed in any playoff situation, just so that there isn't that extra added motivation of, oh, they were the best team all year, and that we aren't sitting there going into this game thinking we were the best team all year. We can just turn it on when we need to, because we've seen this team start slow in games, get behind, and they haven't looked great in elimination games they've played this year. They didn't look great in their Leagues Cup elimination game versus Nashville. They didn't look great versus Inter. I mean, they played well versus Inter Miami, but they didn't seal the deal versus Inter Miami. I wish that they were coming in hotter. I don't know that I'm concerned. That might be a strong way to say it, but I wish they looked just a little better or had a little more live pitching over the last couple of weeks of this. I don't know. Am I overreacting on that? I feel like I might be underreacting, if anything.
I don't know. I mean, we'll see how they come out of the gate on Sunday, right? I mean, I have concerns about the late season form. I'm actually more concerned by the lack of any real stakes for getting up for the last, frankly, before they won the Supporters Shield, it was a foregone conclusion, right? It's like
this team's been on cruise control.
The last 2 months of the season, it was like, if we get a point,
right,
we're going to get the Supporters Shield. I feel like, it's like you take a couple weeks off work, it takes you a little bit to get into the mindset, you know?
What?
I do feel like that it just can't be the same. There's no way it's the same mindset that they're going to need them in the playoffs. So then it's just, are they going to be able to conjure that on demand? Right. I hope so.
The good news is if you do want to say good news for this, is that this isn't their first time in the playoffs. This isn't a team that the majority of this team was in this position last year as well, got up for the playoffs.
They were not in this position last year. They needed to win. there was a scenario where they needed to win against DC last game of the season.
What I meant is that
to make
that
the
this
playoffs.
team is not like this is not a first-time playoff team. This team has been in the playoffs
Sure,
before.
yeah.
They've played multiple playoff games. So what the intensity and what they need to do to get themselves to, they know the level they need to play at, and they know the level they need to be at in order to be successful in the postseason. So there's no surprises and there's no secrets there as far as that goes. And I don't know, this team's had a strange knack for when it needed to get up and do something, it got up and do something. Like, we thought they were in a death spiral a little bit after dumped out of the Leagues Cup, got destroyed by Columbus, heartbreaker versus Miami. They come back and follow that up by beating the ever-living shit out of NYC FC. And in the games that mattered, this team rarely faltered at home. So I think that's the big equalizer here.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah. And I mean, we're going to find out what they're made of, right?
No, we absolutely are.
Whether they have that mentality.
Manalytics. That dog in them, as the kids say.
Yeah, we're going to find out
what that dog is.
Speaking of finding out, buy or sell, the Bupenza drama is over.
Buy. I'm going to buy that. I'm going to buy that it's over for now. So it sounds like he's back at practice. It sounds like he is back.
Per the paper of record, he's back in practice.
Paper of record also indicating that any issues are settled. I don't know if that's based on anything other than just Pat trying to be coy with his wording, which either way, job well done. I said it on this weekend, and I still believe it, that it has to be buried for now. And whatever has happened has to be buried. The focus has to be on the playoff run. It has to be on these games. And whatever decisions are going to be made about Bupenza are going to be made in the offseason. And there will probably, I don't know that we'll ever know what the exact situation was with him, but if it was bad enough that they're going to look at moving on in the offseason, they'll look at moving on in the offseason. I think that it's wholly absurd that there are portions of our fan base that are already talking about using the buyout on him. That's just calm down a little on that.
Wait, someone who said that?
Oh, you don't have to.
No, don't tell me. Don't tell me who said that. I actually don't want to know who said that because I haven't seen it. But you saw somebody say using the buyout on
Facebook's him? A wild place. We'll put it that way. Yeah. No, we don't need to go there. We have a proud history in this city of firmly getting on top of our strikers whenever things seem to go a little bit sideways with them. But for right now, it has to be in the past. The coaching staff, and I think Noonan and Albright recognize this, and the rest of the coaching staff recognizes this, that we are focused entirely on the playoffs, and we'll worry about Aaron's situation later because we need him scoring goals. And he did that. He did that this season. His numbers bore that out. And yeah, they say winning is the best deodorant. Scoring goals is the best deodorant when it comes to drama and problems. And having a head case at striker, we wouldn't be the first team to have to deal with that. So score goals, I don't care.
Yeah, and if his form against Philadelphia was best form you've seen from like any player in the league this year, we know he's got it in him. Buy or sell, Santiago Arias' health is going to be a big topic of conversation this playoffs.
Buy. I think that I read online that he's out for the first game. Did I see that already? That he might be already out?
Yeah, so I can't independently verify this, but folks who listened to the radio broadcast were telling us that Pat Noonan said that the radio broadcast before the Atlanta game said that Pat Noonan told Tommy G that Santiago Arias is already ruled out of the first game of round 1 of the playoffs.
I love that.
I have not seen that in writing anywhere except for our Discord. So
join the post Discord.
I can't I mean, I believe the folks who said they heard that they heard that.
Yeah.
So I guess stay tuned on this issue. But I also buy that this is going to be a question mark for the playoffs because I think Arias will have a big role to play if the team wins MLS Cup.
All right, here's a question for you. Can FC Cincinnati win MLS Cup if Santiago Arias is not healthy and is not playing in this tournament?
Yes. Do I think they will? No.
Yeah. He's so dynamic in terms of what he brings to the table over anyone else they put on the field. Like the upgrade in what Arias can do versus Alvis Powell in that space is it's night and day in terms of how much more threatening Arias looks with the ball in the attacking third. Just it's almost sublime. And you put Powell out there, and it feels like a gaping hole on one side of the field, both offensively and defensively. And that's no knock on Powell. He's a very serviceable MLS player. He's just not Santiago Arias.
Yep. I have two more.
I'm loving this. This is great.
All right. Buy or sell. The playoff game Sunday will not sell out.
Will not sell out? Sell. It'll sell out.
Yeah?
I'll put it this way. If it's close to being a sellout, they're going to do some funny math with the tickets. You're damn sure they're going to put up 25,513 in that game if it's anywhere near a sellout. But no, it'll sell out. I think that they're almost a victim of their own success a little bit in this regard, in that, so getting an FCC ticket is actually kind of hard this year. They sold out just about every game, and I think people just assume the games are sold out now, so I don't even know that people know that you can still buy some tickets to this game. So I tend to believe it'll be a sellout just because, A, the weather looks pretty decent, knock on wood, for the match right now. They did draw a little bit of a tough time slot in terms of 8 p.m. Sunday on a school night, but it's playoffs, man. It's the first playoff game in TQL Stadium history. It would suck if this didn't sell out. I think people will step up. I think it'll be a pretty raucous environment. I don't know. Do you really think we're not going to sell this game out?
Well, I'll tell you what. I think there's two things working against them. One is it does look like the playoff tickets were priced a little high.
Yeah.
Because the dynamic pricing from the team is already lower than what they were offered to season ticket holders for the season ticket holder presale.
That's not a good look.
Which is something I don't think is a good look, but I don't want to get into that point right now because, I mean, honestly, whatever. Right. And two, I think 8 p.m. on Sunday, that I think is a lot of trick or treating night.
Is that Halloween? Tuesday's Halloween, right?
Tuesday's Halloween.
Right. So I don't think anyone is.
But I think people are. I think a lot of people are trick or treating on Sunday.
I always thought you did it on the day it was. I always remember Halloween happening on. This is a spoiler. It's been a very long time since I went out trick or treating.
Yeah, I guess I don't know, but there's a Bengals game.
Yeah.
An afternoon game.
4 p.m.
You know, it's pushing right up against the start time. I think there's like some difficult factors. Yeah. Do I think ultimately it'll sell out? Yes. I mean, at the end of the day, they just got to get 25,000 people to want to come to a home playoff game.
I mean, it sort of sells itself to a certain...
That exists. Yeah. I think that if I was in the season ticket, or not the season, if I was in the ticket sales department, I would be a little nervous about my hitting my metrics or whatever they got to do. But
I don't know. It's going to be a blast. I mean, night athletics, night professional sports, no matter what the sport is, playing it at night after dark hits different. This is going to be the first game in a really long time. I don't even know. Have we ever had a match kick off after dark?
I don't know. All I know is we've never won the same day as the
Obviously.
Bengals.
I mean, Jonah will let us know if that had actually happened. But no, I feel like the last
I
after dark game we had at TQL Stadium was the U.S.-Mexico game, which was a November.
that was
it
after dark.
It just feels different. It just, everything hits different. They do, when you're walking into the stadium and you can actually see the lights on the side of the building, if the supporters are popping strobes and flares, you see those. I mean, that just, it gets you a little more hype. There's also something too to just a sporting event where there's that crispness in the air, where you got the jacket on, you can, you feel a little fall. I can't wait. Like you shouldn't need to get hyped up for this game, or you shouldn't need a reason to buy a ticket for this game. If you're listening to this podcast and you're one of the 12 and you don't have a ticket to this game, I don't know why you're still here. I don't know. But I'm happy you are here. Please keep listening.
Okay, so last one, and I've got a little preface for this one. Folks who listen will know. Those who don't know, I'm going to explain. We had a little bit. We have an ongoing moratorium on mentioning a certain player for Inter Miami.
Well,
CF.
you have the moratorium. It seems to not be impacting me at all these last few episodes. Christ.
And Chief served one punishment and has transgressed 2 additional times since then. We're not sure what the punishment for round 3 is, but the punishment for round 2 is he has to go see Dinesh D'Souza's 2000 film, 2000 Mules. So, Chief, buy or sell your ticket to 2000 Mules. Have you got it?
It's not 2000 Mules. It's called Police State, number 1. 2000 Mules has already come out. And the answer is no, I have not yet gotten it. I'm having a little bit of some cognitive dissonance right here in that I am very willing to watch this movie and offer a review to the people of the podcast. I really do have a bit of a problem giving my money to the man. This may be a discussion to have with Kevin when he returns to the show from parts unknown. I may beg off to be allowed to pirate this and watch it just so that
I'll say you can pirate it. You don't have to buy a ticket.
I don't know that I want.
You do have to spend your time watching.
Maybe we can talk about. This is not me attempting to negotiate my way out of this punishment, and I understand there will be a worse punishment coming afterwards. I accept that reality. I don't know that he needs my $15 for this ticket.
He doesn't need your money.
I don't want to give him my money. So
he's just going to spend it. He's just going to spend it.
No, or
drugs.
Another movie, which would be even worse.
Yeah.
Put it up your nose. That's a way more productive use of my money than another movie.
Yeah.
So I'm selling the fact that I have bought a ticket because I have not, and I do not want to buy. So this is a non-buying situation.
All right. Well, that does it for buy sell. Should we wrap up segment 1?
I think that does it. Buy or sell. Boy, there's a bunch of ESPN shows. They could definitely use this as a segment idea, I think. Call Tony Reale for this one. All right, so that was buy or sell. Stick around through the ad read that Kevin sent to me that he's already recorded, so I don't have to do it because just not that kind of night. I'm not into that tonight. Too much soccer, too much drama, too much talking. You heard my voice enough. So stick through the ad break, and we'll be back on the other side with a preview of the playoffs. Let's do it.
This episode is also brought to you by Cincy Shirts. Look, you know Cincy Shirts. You love Cincy Shirts. They've been with FCC from the beginning, and we here at the PostCast, we're just huge fans of their work. They were very early sponsors of the PostCast here, and we have always enjoyed their work. If you head on over to cincyshirts.com, that's Cincy with a Y, shirts.com, and check out using the promo code ThePostCincy, all one word, all caps, you will get 10% off your order, and you let them know that we sent you. Like, they have MLS and MLSPA licensed FCC gear available online and at their 2 retail locations in Hyde Park and Fort Mitchell. If they don't have your size on the shelf, they can print you one on the spot. That is a fantastic feature and something that I have used as well. So again, special thank you to Cincy Shirts. Head on over to their website or check the link down below in the description for the promo code ThePostCincy for 10% off your next order. And a huge thank you to Cincy Shirts.
And we're back. Buy or sell, scintillating. I love this as a content idea. We need to bring this back in the offseason. In the 11, out of the 18, getting a little stale, I think, at this point. Good talk. I'll take that as your acknowledgement that, yes, in fact, we do need to move on from that.
Yeah. I think we could get more creative with
our segments.
With our
off-season segments. Kevin wants to do mock trials in the offseason. How do you feel about that?
We'll have to get some folks from the Discord with who have appropriate experience.
Yeah,
for
not
that.
me. Couldn't be me. All right, so allegedly we're an FC Cincinnati soccer podcast. You wouldn't know that by listening to the first segment. We've got a game this weekend. We already know who the participants are going to be, thanks to New York Red Bulls' absolute domination of Charlotte this evening in the wild card round or the opening round or whatever they're calling it of the MLS Cup Playoffs presented by Audi and whatever other sponsor, Continental Tires, Captain Morgan, DoorDash, whoever the hell else they've sold this to right now.
Mentioned on the podcast.
As mentioned on the as sponsored by Audi MLS Cup Playoffs as also mentioned by the postcast as well. New York, what was your reaction when, I'll say, that third goal went in and it became very inevitable that we were going to be playing New York for this series?
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't thrilled.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine like going through your day, like you're an operator of public transportation, and you're just like going through your shift. You're like taking tickets, letting people on, letting people off, and you look up because you operate transportation in Nagasaki, and in 1945, and yeah, that's about how I felt.
Yeah. There was a.
I was like, "There's nothing to do with me."
This was just going to happen. There was nothing I could do to prevent this. This was just little Thanos level of inevitability here. I had already made my peace with the fact we were playing New York. I had placed a non-insubstantial wager on the Red Bulls this morning, so you boys having a good day when it comes to the gambling apps. Gamble responsibly, 1-800-GAMBLER if you have a problem.
Oh, shit, I had to buy or sell on the gambling. I forgot to write it down. Could you do this real quick?
Sure.
Sorry.
Impromptu.
Buy or sell. Nobody would have cared about that Iowa State Minnesota call, except for legalized gambling.
Oh, buy. Absolutely. Like, I'm convinced half of these decisions only occur because, or these highlights only get shown because degenerate gamblers are losing money. Also, if you are betting on those kind of Big Ten games, you deserve to lose your money. Like, that is just, the house is always going to kill you doing that. And I say this as someone who had the under this weekend in Wisconsin versus
Iowa, Minnesota, not Iowa State.
No, it was Wisconsin. Was it Wisconsin, Iowa this weekend? I think
Minnesota, Iowa.
Who did Wisconsin play? Either way, I got brutally murdered by a late Wisconsin touchdown that busted the under in that game. Don't bet the bottom of the Big Ten. Don't do it. It's a den of sadness down there, and you will never be better than the sharps in Vegas at predicting that level of nonsense. So yeah, New York Red Bulls. I didn't want to see this team. I don't want to see this team, but I'm going to ask you this. Grayson, did they fire their entire wad tonight?
I do believe in wasting goals.
Yes.
Conceptually, right? Like, they definitely wasted some goals tonight. They were like 5 goals on like just over 1 XG.
There's some bananas goals got scored tonight by New York. That J.R.R. Tolkien's free kick was absurd.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, in the long run, you're the back of your baseball card. I don't think that tonight's result was representative of what we can expect to see in round 1 of the playoffs.
I hope not.
However, could they still, could Red Bull still win the round 1 playoff series? Sure. Are they going to do it by scoring 5 goals a game? No.
Charlotte was terrible tonight too.
Yeah,
absolutely atrocious.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what was going on with them. They weren't great this season, obviously. 9th in the East.
Right.
But they were as bad as any team that I've seen play all season.
No, it was almost like they gave up the first goal and just collapsed at that point. They were mentally spent after conceding first, and silly giveaways. They had no ability to possess the ball whatsoever, but they were also non-threatening on the counter, and they just, by the end of that first half, they just looked shell-shocked. They didn't want to be there. They looked like the stereotypical type of team that was so excited to make the postseason that it never occurred to them they'd actually have to play a game when they got there. And I know this because I've seen the Bengals look this way multiple times in the pre-Joe Burrow era of football.
Yeah. I talked about having that mentality earlier. Red Bulls were getting to every 50-50 ball. That's what got Charlotte down early. Was Red Bull was just taking the ball from them and beating them to every ball that every 50-50 ball. And if FC Cincinnati is going to get beat to 50-50 balls, get beat on headers, they're not going to have a great time.
No.
So we're just going to. I think our team is mentally tough.
I know this team is mentally tough because this team has been through so much.
I don't expect them to play the game Charlotte played.
I don't either. They've got that game in them, though, and we've seen them have that game this year, which is kind of low-key terrifying. But as somebody pointed out earlier this year, every MLS team, even the good ones, lay massive eggs over the course of a 34-game season. My thing with this game is that, looking at it objectively from the outside looking in, is that there are a number of things playing to FC Cincinnati's strengths in this. Number one, Charlotte has one way to beat you, and that's Karol Swiderski. And anything they're going to do is going to go through Karol Swiderski. They're very easy to defend in that regard as well. FC Cincinnati has multiple ways to beat you. There are multiple people on the field at any given time who can cause you nightmares in terms of matchups. We still haven't seen that game from Brandon Vasquez yet. It's lurking out there. If it happens in the playoffs, that will be amazing. But between Vasquez, Acosta, Barrial, Bopenza, and if he's on the field, even Santiago Arias, there are a number of guys that can absolutely ruin your night on FC Cincinnati. They also can physically match up with New York. Charlotte's center backs, particularly, did not match New York in physicality at any point during this game. That will not be an issue for Yerson Mosquera and Matt Miazga in this game. Cards have reset. That's a good thing for Matt Miazga because I expect that he will pick up multiple cards during the course of this series. I think that for this game, the other thing working in FC Cincinnati's favor is that New York had to get up to play this game. They had to get up tactically to play Charlotte, and they're now going to be traveling on a short rest week and a short prep week to play Cincinnati. And I know they've played 3 times this year, and this will be their 4th time, so there aren't a lot of secrets between these two teams. It's just different in the playoffs, and getting that intensity level up. FC Cincinnati only has to do it once this week. New York has to do it twice. There's an energy cost to that, and there's only so much that you can withdraw on the bank in terms of getting yourself up to play high-level games like this. So I want to feel more. I'm trying to talk myself into feeling more confident about this than I probably should.
Yeah, I mean, I think all of that is right. I would throw. So, Red Bull has played us tough all year. Let's throw out the game right after the clinching the supporter shield, where there was 7 rotations.
The team was profoundly hungover.
But even so, like up in New York, they took the lead first, and we had to claw back and steal that
in a match
one.
without Lucho Acosta. It needs to be said.
Fair, yeah. And then in Open Cup, they scored late and took us to penalties. So this is a team that has played us tough, and they play everybody tough.
Good run of form coming into this.
How they do it, I don't know. I think Red Bulls are a massive indictment on the league that they just let teams play that way.
Yeah.
But it's not going to be a surprise. So
Kivy said in the Discord, and I agree with this, that I would be a lot more forgiving of the Red Bulls play style if they actually were the New Jersey or the Newark Red Bulls. I think I would be a lot less angry at how cynically they play soccer if they were branded as Jersey as opposed to New York.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Utterly irrational take.
But remember, we have our own jersey, right? We got Matt Miazga, middle of the defense. And we got Obi.
Got Evan.
Right?
Jersey pride.
Evan Loro, also Jersey.
Obi's not from Jersey, but he has Jersey attitude. I really do believe that.
Obi, yeah. Obi could fit in.
Just get him a tracksuit. He'll be fine. Tracksuit and some Taylor ham.
Junior Moreno, he's got that mustache. He's looking more Jersey every day.
Aaron Bupenza breaking rules. That's very New Jersey. That's very mob of him.
Yeah. So,
Lucho's got little guy energy. That's also very New Jersey.
Absolutely. So I forget what question I'm trying to answer here. But
who's more New Jersey, New York Red Bulls or FC Cincinnati? I think we're out Jerseying them currently.
Yeah, and we got folks from Philly.
Philly is
Philly's
basically
Jersey.
Yeah, Albright is basically from New Jersey.
Yeah. Kenny Arena, not from New Jersey, but if you told me he was from New Jersey, I'd believe you. Certainly wouldn't fight you on it.
Who's the least least New Jersey person on FC Cincinnati?
Brandon
Roman
Vasquez.
Celentano. Roman Celentano just looks wholesome Midwest. Like, he is Clark Kent. He's the Clark Kent of this team. There's absolutely no doubt in my mind he would be out of place in Gotham City.
Oh yeah, he would get eaten up. You still have to feel good about the team.
Yeah.
We've said all types of stuff. Most of this is driven by the anxiety of being a Cincinnati sports fan heading into any kind of playoff.
Right.
Okay. And we're trying to, at least I personally, in my mind, is immediately gravitating toward the things, anything I can possibly think
Johnny
of.
Cueto dropping the baseball, Jeremy Hill fumbling.
That gives me misgivings.
Luke Fickell coaching like the most scared 5-year-old in history against Alabama.
But the fact of the matter is that in the 2 games where we were really trying, we went to their place and beat them. Neither one of those teams we fielded a full first choice lineup.
No.
Been the best team in MLS all year. We have, if the youths will forgive me, dogs in this team. Okay. Evan Loro said Lucho is a dog. Yeah. I would venture that Obi is a dog.
Big time dog in him.
Matt Miazga is a dog. Yerson Mosquera is a dog.
Alvaro
Barreal.
Dog. Santiago
Roman
Arias.
Celentano.
Dog.
Brandon Vasquez. Dog.
He's got that dog in him twice. He's got double.
Aaron Bupenza. Dog.
He's got golden retriever energy.
Right? He gets loose sometimes. We haven't set the invisible fence up yet, but he's a dog for sure.
You occasionally have to put a post on Nextdoor every so often trying to find him, but Bupenza's that dog.
Junior Moreno.
Dog.
Dog.
What about Ray Gaddis? Dog?
Ray Gaddis is a dog. Yeah. Come on. The Lord allows him to be a dog.
The Lord gives him those buttons, those dog buttons.
Yes, those dog buttons. Elvis
dog.
Pal. Dog. Yeah.
Halsey.
Don Baji. Dog.
Halsey's
Brett
dog.
Halsey, dog.
Baji, definitely a dog.
Yuya Kubo. Akita.
Yeah, definitely. But strong dog energy.
Dog. So you got to feel good about it.
In a dog off, I like our chances.
Yeah.
All right. Here,
and in a soccer game, I like our chances.
Important question. The people need to know. I need to know what your take is on this. Should we still be booing Frankie Amaya in this game after he came into our building on Shield Award night and kind of shut us the fuck up with a decent goal? Is it time to move on?
I'm gonna say it's time to move on, and here's why.
Oh, I can't wait for the Discord after hearing this part. Go ahead.
This is the playoffs. We are focused on ourselves. FC Cincinnati is just focused on one goal. There's only one thing to worry about. The rest of for the next, month and a half, and it's winning MLS Cup. Singling out players on other teams, that's below us. They're all the same. They're just things in our way. And all of our energy, I think, should be focused on supporting our guys toward that common goal. And we should not be wasting our thoughts on, random players on other teams.
I do think for the playoffs, there's a certain element of wipe the slate clean. That it's that whatever grudges existed going into the postseason, that it's time to sort of you are just in our way. I believe this about Columbus. I don't believe it's hell is real if we meet Columbus in the playoffs. It's not that. They are just in our way. And to put any additional significance on who we're playing, every team is equal in the eyes of the Lord when it comes to facing FC Cincinnati in the playoffs. They are all equally despicable. They are all equally scumbags, and they all equally deserve to lose. So from that standpoint, I kind of agree. Even though it's going to get both of us roasted in various online circles, I think that it is time to move on for now with the Frankie Amaya hate. I will leave it as an open question as to whether or not we resume the Frankie Amaya hate when we see him next year in the regular season. I think I tend to lean towards we've put it to bed. However, I will say I am 100% behind if we establish new villains in the playoffs that it is okay to treat them as such. Or if people fuck up in the playoffs, that letting them hear about that during the course of the playoffs, I'm also okay with. So, guy gets nutmegged by Lucho, leads to a goal. I'm okay heckling the guy. Guy is on the ground rolling around like he's been shot with a sniper rifle, even though nobody's touched him. Okay, getting on that guy a little bit. But I agree. We don't bring grudges into the postseason. They are just the hated enemy. They all start off equally detestable and equally awful in the eyes of the FC Cincinnati fandom, I think. I think I agree with that.
This is like this. It's analogous to like the Street Fighter movie when Chun-Li explains to Bison that she has this big grudge against him because he came to her village and killed her father. One of the
greatest scenes in film history. Continue.
And Bison ends the quote with, "For you, the day Bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. For me, it was Tuesday."
More people need to talk about how great Raul Julia was in this movie. His swan song as an actor, and he could not have gone out any better.
This game, it's a Sunday night playoff game. Nothing and no one should be more important than just advancing through the playoffs,
right? And
steamrolling whoever's in our way.
We
are Bison. We are not Chun-Li.
It's Tiger Woods mentality. Tiger Woods wasn't playing Phil Mickelson. Tiger Woods was playing Tiger Woods. He's going to do his thing. And that's the joy of being the Supporters' Shield winning team, is that you play your game, It's gotten you to be the best team so far in the league. If you play your game, especially in this new format where it's 3 games and not just any given Sunday when it comes to the matchups, you play your game, you do what you did the entire year that got you to this point, the odds are you're not going to lose 2 out of 3. So, yeah. Make it a Tuesday. Don't make it a big day. I like that. Make it a Tuesday. Obscure reference, but I think it would play.
Yeah, I think
so. We reach the moment of truth. What do you got this game as for a final score?
I'm going to go 1-0 the FC.
Yeah, that feels really right. That's what I would have done if you hadn't done it. But in the interest of being different, I'm going to say 2-1 to the FC, but the 2 is quick, and they get one back, and we have to sweat out a second half up 1 is where I think I see this going.
That also feels right.
I think that it is of paramount importance in either scenario to score the first goal. I do not think that this series is going to go well for FC Cincinnati, and I think it is going to be unwatchable for the paying attendance that will sell out TQL Stadium if Red Bulls gets up a goal on the road. I do not think you will see them pushing for 5 like they did tonight. I think they will take the bus they arrived in and they will park it directly in front of the net, and you will be treated to a spectacle of acting unlike anything you will see reported on in BroadwayWorld.com. So there you have it. I feel good about those predictions. I think one of those is going to be right. I'll bet Kevin would have predicted the Red Bulls to win.
Yeah, fuck Kevin.
Don't like that. There's been a request in the Discord that we end this episode with a fuck Frankie. But I think we've put that to bed. I think we've given some good reasons why that's not going to be the case. Much like the FC, I think we do what got us to this point. What do you think about that, Grayson?
Just win, baby.
Fuck Columbus.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Cincy PostCast, which is a production of The Post Cincy. You can check us out at thepostcincy.com for all of our written content as well as links to our social media. You can follow us on Twitter, and as well you can join us on our Discord server. You can find links to that server both in this episode description as well as on our website. That is where most of our conversations are going on. We have a lovely community there talking about FC Cincinnati, MLS, anything and everything else and everything in between. We also want to give a huge thanks to Jim Trace and the Makers for providing all of the music you've heard throughout this episode. They're an amazing local Cincinnati band. Again, more information about them is in the description of this episode. And if you enjoyed what you listened to and you've made it to the end, so I'm going to assume you liked it or you just can't reach your stop button, please like us, review us, subscribe to us wherever you are getting your podcasts. That is going to be really, really helpful. But more importantly, share this with a friend. A personal recommendation helps spread a podcast so much further. So please share this if you know somebody in your life who's an FC Cincinnati fan, an MLS fan, somebody that you think would enjoy this. Pass it on over. Thank you so much again for listening. It blows me away that people continue to listen to us, and thank you so much again.